Namaskar. Today I am going to talk about Saturn's transit in the sign of Pisces for the 12 zodiac signs. Saturn remains in Pisces from 29th March 2025 till early June 2027. It is almost a period, a longer arc of 2.25 years. I'd done this video in Hindi a few days back, and a lot of people said that you must do it in English since they don't understand Hindi. So I said, well, but I must also say that you are going through this video, but remember, destiny is not of 12 types. We have 12 zodiac signs, but these are each and every individual horoscope is very detailed and very intricate, because timing plays an important part in casting a horoscope, and so does longitude and latitude, the place that you're born at. So to say that life will be divided into 12 types of destiny, well, that won't be the case. But yes, this is going to give you a broader perspective, so you can go through this podcast. When I say that this is what Saturn's transit into Pisces will mean for various zodiac signs, I am looking at moon signs and at ascendants. So Lagna and the moon sign. The moon sign is also known as the Janma Rashi. This is not as per sun sign. This is as per moon sign or ascendant. The moon is the fastest moving planet in a Rashi for 2.25 days. And the sun, which covers 1 degree in a day, stays in one particular sign for 30 days. So the fastest moving planet, moon, we look at the Janma Rashi or the sign of the moon to understand the transit of Saturn or any other planet basis the moon Rashi or basis your ascendant. Well, some people would still want to look at their sun signs, and here is another point that I would like to mention here. In India, we celebrate Makar Sankranti, or the ingress of sun into the sign of Capricorn, on the 14th of January every year, and this date doesn't change. Why? Because this starts the northward movement of the sun and is celebrated as Uttarayan. If we've read a bit of Mahabharata, we know that Bhishma Pitama waited for Uttarayan to give up his mortal body, because he had the boon of Ichha Mrityu from his father after he took this vow of celibacy, Ichha Mrityu, that he could give up his mortal body as and when he decided. So he waited for the auspicious time of Uttarayan, when the sun started his northward journey, to give up his life force. Uttarayan and 14th January. Which means, and as I've just told you, that sun stays in one particular sign for 1 month. So 14th January to 14th, approximately between 14th and 17th of the month, the sun transits from one sign to the other. So from 14th January to 14th or 17th of Feb, sun would be in Capricorn. But if you follow newspapers, televisions and other places, they'll tell you that 23rd or 22nd December to 22nd, 23rd January is Capricorn. So there is a bit of an issue in the dates there. So if you are going to follow this video for your sun sign as well, remember that you have to follow the Vedic system of astrology or the Vedic transit system, and then you will understand how the ingress of the sun is from 14th January to 14th February for Capricorn, and so on and so forth for the rest of the signs. It might not be 14th exactly in each month. As I said, it would be between 14th to 17th of a month. That is the time when the sun ingresses into the other sign. This is just a point of caution, because otherwise people who are born on 30th of December are going to say they are Capricorn. Well, no, you're a Sagittarius. Remember this point. And now you can go through this video basis this newfound knowledge. So how is this transit of Saturn going to be in Pisces for Aries? See, for Aries ascendant or Aries moon sign, Saturn is the 10th and the 11th lord transiting in the 12th house. Now, as the 10th lord in the 12th house, this is a time for transfers, of movement, of change in location, which is work related. But there is also an eclipse which is happening in the 12th house. So this travel or transfer, so this change in location which is related to your work front, is coming with a profile change or some major shift on the job front. That is very evident from this chart. As the 11th Lord in the 12th house, this Saturn will increase your expenses. So you will have to use better judgment when you're spending and curb your expenses. That is extremely important. From the 12th house, this Saturn is going to aspect the 3rd house. So it could also be the time of liquidation of a capital asset, where you try and sell off a property, okay, as well. So liquidation of a capital asset, which could also mean selling a property. Make sure that it is not a distress sale and that you get a good price for the property that you're selling, because the 12th house Saturn's aspect is going to define that there could be some bit of a negotiation where you could be on the losing end. So make sure that you balance your negotiations well when you make this, when you sell this property or sell your capital asset. This eclipse in the 12th house and also this cluster of planets in the 12th house, make sure that your health is taken care of. The 12th house aspect of Saturn on the 2nd would also mean that there is some dietary complication, that you're going to diet majorly, eat less. So make sure that you have a nutritious diet. Also, insomnia and problems related to the feet are very clear when such maleficence happens in the 12th house. So ladies, please be careful, don't wear heels. I tell a lot of people this. People give their feet too much support. Whatever shoes you wear, it's always a great idea to walk barefoot, because there is nothing like walking barefoot. There is no equivalent therapy for the spine that could match bare feet walking. So in an environment like India, where you should not be wearing socks all the time, but well, that's become a norm. Remember, when you wear socks all the time, there is always excess heat in the stomach. So barefoot walking and not wearing socks all the time is a remedy, not just for Aries Lagna, but for a lot of other people as well. Please make sure that that will aid good health. That's important. So insomnia, sleep related issues, always good not to have medicines to treat insomnia. Always good to listen to some very healing chants in the night just before going to sleep. Too much of television and Instagram reel watching is not also a great idea if you're suffering from insomnia, so please be careful. Saturn in the 12th also gives Vata Roga. So joints can get trouble because of that. So avoid late night dinners. That is true for everybody, whatever be your zodiac signs. Try and follow the clock, the movement of the sun, and align your biological clock with that of the sun. The stomach is fine. Saturn is not going to trouble you, because Saturn is the son of sun, Surya. So there is a bit of a mismatch. There is a bit of non-alignment between the two, between father and son. That is why if there is less Agni in the body, then Vata Roga increases. So having dinner on time will prevent your feet and your legs from hurting. Be careful on that. Now we move on to the next sign. I am going to give remedies at the end, because it's not that every zodiac sign has a different remedy, but the charts will be same for all the zodiac signs. To propitiate Saturn, you could be doing the same charts. Now, I'm going to talk you through Taurus. How is this transit going to be for Taurus? For Taurus Lagna or Taurus moon sign, Saturn is a Yog Karak. When does a planet become a Yog Karak? When it has the lordship of a trine and a Kendra. So in this particular case, Saturn has the lordship of the 9th house and the 10th house. 9th being a Kendra, 9th being a Trikona, and 10th being a Kendra. And now the transit of the 10th Lord will be in the 11th house. This is going to augur very, very well for Taurus Lagna or Taurus moon sign natives. Why? Because the 10th Lord in the 11th house is showing gains, and with a cluster of so many planets in the 11th house, this is showing a lot many gains. These gains could also be coming from father's inheritance as well. or some inheritance that comes your way. This could also mean gains from a speculative market. But remember, with a lot of caution, because I don't want to now have all Taurus Lagna people saying we invested in the stock markets because all of us are going to have gains. That will be horoscope specific. But as a general broader point of view, I'm saying that since the 11th house is so powerful for Taurus Lagna people, that it is showing various many gains. It could also translate into gains via or gains through promotions as well. Now, with malefics influencing the 5th house, and also because the 5th and the 11th is in the Rahu Ketu axis, be careful of the fact that nobody bullies your children at school, that they're not having much problem with their education. Now that could happen because of bad habits, too much of television watching, too much of being on social media, or some conflict which could happen with peers at school. So please be very careful. You should always give your children a patient hearing when they tell you troubles that they are going through, whether you might think that this is really a trouble or not. But if the child is getting trouble, then always give a patient hearing. You never know that it could actually be a serious matter, because what children go through in childhood leaves deeper imprints on them as they grow up. So always be very protective of your children. Give them a nurturing environment. It is extremely important. This Saturn from the 11th house is also going to aspect the Lagna. So Taurus is an earth sign, and from a watery Rashi, Saturn is going to aspect this Taurus. So be careful of weight gain. That is important. And also the fact that this might lead to some sort of lethargy, because the current transit in the beginning of the year, Jupiter as the 8th lord is also in the Lagna. So be careful if you think that your tamas is increasing and you're becoming lethargic, or rather inertia is rising within the system, then be careful that you have a regimented lifestyle where you go for regular walks. I always recommend yoga and walking, and not just some mindless lifting of weights in the gym. I don't recommend that, because that has some other side effects that can be seen in the chart. However, it is up to you how you decide to remain fit, but that's important. Now we will move on to the Gemini sign. Saturn as the 8th lord will transit in the 10th. This often leads to breaks or major changes on the job front. When I say major changes, which would come with giving up of one job and taking up another job. But sometimes what happens when this combination comes, then people think that they will take a 2-month break. But then the break kind of extends itself and it goes on for 7 to 8 months without you finding a good job. When you leave your job, you think it's going to be fine. That will just be a month or two. But then it extends itself, and that troubles you a lot. So this is that combination. So if you're taking a break, take very calculated risks and plan your breaks well. Because remember, what you think could be a 2-month or a 1-month break could turn well into a 7 to 8 month break. And that might not be the way you would have planned your finances or your expenses. They might go a bit overboard. So be very, very careful of that. Saturn from the 10th house will aspect the 4th. And it will aspect the 4th house as the 8th lord as well. As the 8th and 9th lord, it will aspect the 4th house. So now this could have two meanings. There could be a lot of travel related to pilgrimage. You could be doing a lot of pilgrimages. The second, that you could be changing location and shifting into some other place, changing houses. The house that you move into, with Saturn's aspect on the 4th, you might feel unsettled throughout this entire arc and say that I'm not feeling happy, the paint is peeling, the plumbing is a problem, there are other issues in this house. There's an unsettled feeling in this entire arc, because the Saturn in the 4th house will not give you sukha or happiness from the place that you're dwelling in, whether that be vastu related or some other issues. You could be very worried about that. But I'm saying that don't spend too much of money correcting all of this. Sometimes simple remedies work. Doing the Vishnu Sahasranama or listening to the Vishnu Sahasranama when you get up in the morning or before you sleep, it is said the vibration can change the energy or the consciousness of the entire place that you dwell in. So remember, chanting, doing mantra can change the energy of the place that you're staying in. And keep it clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness. It's not just a statement, it's a fact. Don't keep dirty clothes stacked, dirty dishes in your kitchen. Then the longer the dirt remains, tamas in that particular area will stay on, will linger. Never leave dirty clothes for long or dirty dishes piling up in the kitchen for long. It affects the energy field of your place. If you're feeling depressed, always get up in the morning, look at the sun, offer your pranams, simply do Surya Ashtakam, simply do Gayatri Mantra. Keeping the house clean will also keep the energy field clean, will keep the Agni of that place intact. And you will not feel or get this low depressive energy that can be seen from this chart. So be careful on that. Mother's health could also be an issue for Gemini people. Please be careful of your mother's health. If there are any such issues, then Hanuman Chalisa is a great chant to do, because Hanumanji had the blessings of Saturn when he released the Devata from the clutches of Ravana. Saturn was tied upside down under Ravana's throne or Simhasan. So when Hanumanji set him free, the Lord Saturn blessed Hanumanji, saying that anyone who worships you will be protected against my maleficence. So my Krura Drishti will not trouble those people who worship you, Hanuman. So the worship of Lord Hanuman, Anjaneya, can protect you against the evil effects of Saturn as well. Remember that. This is for all zodiac signs, not just for Gemini, but yeah, mother's health as a specific point for Gemini natives. Now I'm moving on to Cancer. Now Saturn as the 7th and the 8th Lord transiting in the 9th house. As the 8th Lord in the 9th house aspecting the 11th, this means that there is income from commission or variable aspects of the income would be better, would increase and give you gains. It's very clear. But as the 8th Lord in the 9th house, one has to be careful of the health of the father, the mentor, the preceptor or the guru. They could be going through a patch of bad health. And this eclipse involving the 8th is also falling in the 9th, so be very, very careful of their health. This Saturn is also as the 7th Lord aspecting the 3rd house. Take care of your siblings' health. This could also mean marriage of your younger siblings. So there's happiness on that front, but please be very careful of who they're marrying, and they should know the people. I mean, of course, it's not very easy, but just be very careful and guarded in this alliance of your younger siblings, that there is that you've checked out the families well, that they're going to go into good families. Sometimes a bit of a check is required when we give our siblings into families, or we have, it's important to understand and know those families better. So a little bit of a caution on that front is also recommended, is what I would say. Whenever Saturn aspects the 6th house, metabolism becomes poor. So digestion becomes poor. So as I said, try and align your body clock with that of the movement of the sun and eat on time. Definitely dinner on time. The later you have dinner, the more trouble it will cause to your body, because undigested food in the body can only cause toxins in the rakta or blood. So one has to be careful, and it will only increase the vata roga. So one has to be careful on that. Avoid milk products after sunset. And whenever Saturn aspects the 6th house, we don't recommend cheese, tofu, paneer. We don't. Just slows down the digestion even further. Please be careful of that. The saving grace is that whatever disease you have will not become chronic. You would be able to sort it in time, is very clear. And any conflicts that have been going on for some time or have just erupted within the last 6 months, even those conflicts or those arguments will settle. But because Saturn is also the 8th lord for Cancer ascendants and Cancer moon sign in the 7th, be careful of your spouse's health. That is important. There is a very beautiful stotra called the Uma Maheshwar Stotram. You can say, any issue with the relationship where one can say that, there is conflict, there is not much of an alignment in my relationship with the spouse, then Uma Maheshwar Stotram is a wonderful chant, good for all zodiacs. Anybody and everybody can chant that. It's a very powerful, beautiful chant to create a blissful relationship. Okay, now I will move on to Leo. So remember that for Leo ascendant and Leo moon sign, this is a slightly tricky period. Why? Because Saturn as the 6th and the 7th lord in the 8th house, and there's such a large cluster of planets in the 8th house. From the 8th, Saturn is aspecting the 10th. This could mean a long break on the work front or a major change on the work front. Here, if you decide to change a job or take a break, it could well mean that it's a very long break. It might not be a planned long break, but it could turn out to be a long break. So please be very careful. This chart, this Leo ascendant is also showing layoffs, that you could be part of a larger layoff on the work front. If that happens, then plan your expenses and plan your life accordingly, and look for a job, because this is 6th lord in the 8th. It's not very good for service or a job. This could mean a layoff or a major break in the job, and then you could be picking up some part-time jobs, or you could be a consultant with a company, but this is showing a major shift. Saturn as the 6th lord in the 8th. What are the other meanings? If there have been any court cases, they will see there is some stoppage or there is some solution that'll happen to those court cases. But remember, as I said, there cannot be 12 types of destiny. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that all Simha ascendant people will have this. But as I said, this is a broader outlook, and of course some will ring true for sure, because if you have this as your ascendant sign or your moon sign, then it will ring true for sure. But the extent to which it will ring true, that will vary. So one has to understand that as well. Chronic disease or chronic health issues can get sorted in this period, because the 6th lord in the 8th is stoppage of or a break in chronic diseases as well. So that's a good sign. As the 6th lord aspecting the 2nd house, don't over medicate yourself and don't try and take a medicine for everything. I'm a proponent of yoga and Ayurveda and always tell people, so instead of having too much of chemicals, instead of pouring too much of chemicals into your mouth, it's better to look at some alternate medicine as well, because this chart is showing some over medication, so please be careful on that front as well. As the 7th lord in the 8th, the spouse's health also needs to be looked at. For you, the disease, any chronic disease there's stoppage of any chronicity, so that is good for you. But your spouse could now start something which could be chronic in nature, so one cannot be negligent of the spouse's health. That also needs to be looked at. As the 6th lord aspecting the 5th, if you are planning to do a course, if you're a corporate, if you're working and you're in a regular job and you decide that you want to do a course, then remember it should be short term, because any long term course will also find some sort of a break, or you might not be able to complete that course, so be careful. Your children could also be changing schools, and there are some obstacles in the education, so that could mean changing tuition teachers, changing schools. So just try and give your children as much support that you can, so that their education and their studying routine goes on uninterrupted. There are some interruptions that are happening on the study front on the daily routine front for your children as well. So please be careful. Everything cannot be controlled, because we cannot live in controlled environments, because life is such, all the planets are going to have an effect on us. So these can't be controlled environments, but we must do what we can. That reminds me, a lot of people say that, we will manifest this and manifest that, and I want to do a larger podcast or a detailed podcast on that. But remember that everything you believe that you are manifesting, that's not how it is, because if that were the case, then Krishna would have told you in the Gita that you could manifest and well, that would be the end of the story. But no, Krishna says do your karma and don't worry too much about the fruit that will but Krishna says that do your karma and don't bother too much about the fruit that comes your way. So please be very careful, because too many sankalpas, because manifestation is really a sankalpa, too many sankalpas will only lead to bondage and will again bring you back in the chakravyu of this life cycle, will again bring you back. Your own sankalpas will bring you back, because you told yourself, I want a job in that company, that company, that company. Now it might not manifest exactly like that, but you'll have some association with those people. It'll create some sort of a karmic attraction to that particular entity, and you will come back again because of your own sankalpas. This is the detailed podcast. I'll try and talk about it in detail, but every second person who comes to me these days says that I will manifest this, I will manifest that. Inscrutable are the ways of destiny. Karma ki gati nyari, one of the very famous bhajans of Meera. And we think that, we will manifest and it'll happen. The universe will now sort of collude to get our desires into being. Yeah, it's not that easy. Surrendering to the divine will is the ultimate. Otherwise, all our seers, all our saints would have said, children, why don't you manifest? They never said so. So take it with a bit of caution and don't follow anything blindfoldedly. Yes? Okay. A lot of people can have varying opinions on this. I am not here to argue, debate, do what you please. But once you worship the divine name, then Sadbuddhi rises and you will automatically take finer, better decisions. Now I'm going to go to the next sign, which is Virgo. For Virgo Lagna, Saturn as the 5th lord will come into the 7th house and also as the 6th and the 7th, which would mean that some yoga of marriage can happen in this arc where Saturn is now transiting into Pisces. So the Vivaha Yoga is rising in this particular transit. But as the 6th and the 7th, there can be some obstacles in this yoga as well, which of course you will overcome. Because whenever Saturn will retrograde in Pisces, which is happening in the second half of 2025 and almost from June to October in 2026, then some obstacles will come in this yoga. But then those obstacles should be overcome, because it is also the 5th lord in the 7th. So marriage proposals and marriage is in the offing for Kanya Lagna. It is also showing some disagreements in business partnerships, so please be very careful of that. What are the clauses? What are the terms and conditions of your partnership? Make sure that your documentation is clear and you've understood the dynamics of the deal well before you get into it. It's very, very important that you do that. Mother's health. Be careful of your mother's health. This is not a great time for the purchase of a vehicle. This is not a great time for adventure sports. And if you're driving, be very careful. Don't get into any sort of rash driving. Even if you do something as simple as cycling, as part of or riding a two-wheeler as well, be careful and remain safe. Helmet is a good option, and don't be rash and don't take risks You must also be careful of one more thing, that you shouldn't take things at face value, whether those are relationships or business deals. Verify the accounts that are being given to you and then take the decisions or then make your opinions. Simply saying, don't take things at face value. Look a little deeper. Delve a little deeper into the points, both on the personal and the professional front. That will be important. Now we come to Libra, the zodiac of Libra. Now for Libra ascendant or moon sign, Saturn as the 4th and the 5th lord is transiting in the 6th house. If you're planning to sell off a land or give a property on rent, then make sure that you have verified the tenants who are going to come into your property and that a legal document is signed by them as well, and there are no pluses and minuses in the deal, that it's a very clear, clean deal. This is specifically for rented property. If you're selling your house, then as well be clear on the terms and conditions of the deal, that it should not get into a dispute. That is an important point. For matters of the heart, this is not a great time, because this can cause a bit of a break in the affairs of the heart. So Libra ascendant people have to be careful of that. This for sure is going to give you travel. As the 4th lord in the 6th aspecting the 12th, this for sure is going to give you travel, and this could be travel to a far off land, this could be international travel, but it might not be very fulfilling travel, as there might be many troubles that you, or many obstacles that you have to grapple with. Don't mix food, as in Ayurveda. There are certain foods that you don't mix with others, like curd and milk, like citrus fruits and milk, and some more. So since the 6th house is so troubled, I would say be careful that what you're eating is in alignment. It's not in conflict with the other varieties of food that you're having. This requires some basic knowledge of Ayurveda, but yeah, so this is something one has to be careful of. So be careful of your metabolism as well. I've said don't mix foods which are not in alignment to the other. Don't have cold and hot at the same time. That too sort of suspends digestion. That will be a bit of a problem. And don't have too many meals. There is this thing that now dietitians recommend that you have 5 to 6 meals a day, but remember in olden times people for good health only had 2 large meals a day or 2 good meals a day. Eating constantly is not a great idea. Of course you can have some fruit in the middle, but just be careful of your metabolism. A lot of people can have an argument and say, no, this is the way to be. Well, follow as you should, but take care of your health so that your metabolism works just fine. Okay? If you're going to sell a vehicle as well, be very careful on the sale and purchase of it. In fact, this is not a great time to purchase a vehicle, but if you're selling it, just be careful of the deed or the points of the conditions of the sale. This is not a great time for the chest or the lung health. So save yourself from pollution and be careful of your chest health. Doing some pranayam will be great for your health at this point in time. It's something that you should take care of. Mother's health is also a point that you should be careful of. Lung and chest health is something that you should be careful of for your mother as well. Education. If you're doing a course, just make sure it's not a very long course, because there could be a break in the course. Your children's education also needs to be looked at. Okay, because the 5th and the 6th with such a cluster of the other planets is also showing a bit of trouble. Your child's safety, your children should not have a fall. That also is something that is clear. Please be careful. Don't put your children in some major adventure sports, or children don't do adventure sports, but some major sport which could cause too much of bone trouble, where just be careful that your children don't fracture a bone or a leg or an arm or something. Be careful. Hurt to children, one needs to be careful of that and prevent it as much as one can. There is also a very interesting point for Libra Lagna people, that many job offers, if you decide to change your job, then many offers would come and they would seem at par with each other. Then you have to look at the best possible option. So evaluate it very carefully. There could be many options, just evaluate them very carefully. Now I'll move to Scorpio Rashi. For Scorpio Lagna people, Saturn as the third and the fourth lord is in the fifth. The third lord, the lord for writing, short writing. These could be shorter articles or essays. In the fifth, this is a good time for writing. So if you're planning to author something or to write for a blog, well, this is the time to do that. As the fourth lord in the fifth aspecting the second, this is some sort of a Lakshmi yoga arising. So sale of a capital asset or purchase of a capital asset are both good in this period. They will be gainful, is very clear. As the third lord in the fifth aspecting the seventh, this is also showing Vivah Yoga as well with someone that you've known for a while. In the beginning of the year or the beginning of the arc of Saturn's transit, this is also bringing together the double transit of Jupiter and Saturn while Jupiter remains in Taurus. So this is bringing about a double transit of Jupiter and Saturn on your 7th house. A lot of people come to me and say that double transits don't work, but remember, it's not that easy. Just to say, oh, of course this is statistically correct, but to say that, from the Lagna this is not happening. But remember, sometimes it will happen from the moon. There are very subtle nuances to this. Then over lordships, then it could be on Karakamsha Lagna, we have to look at Navamsha as well. So there are very finer points on how to look at double transit as well. But yes, of course, it does bring into play double transit from Lagna and from moon as well. Okay, so I am not denying that, but sometimes people say that it doesn't come across or ring true across all horoscopes. So then there are subtle points that need to be looked at as well. So for Vrishchik Lagna, that is the point that is coming out. So, or Scorpio, Vrishchik is Scorpio Lagna, this is coming out correct. So this will ring true. This is also the time where, as I already said, buy new property, and that would be a gainful period. As the fourth lord aspecting the 11th house, new property purchase would bring gain. So this is also a good period to do that. As the third lord aspecting the 11th, this could also be a time for a second source of income for you. So if you're planning something or you're planning to set up something with your spouse or with a partner at this point in time, then that too could be a good idea for Scorpio, ascendant Scorpio, moon sign people. Now I'm coming to the next sign, which is Sagittarius. For Sagittarius Lagna, Saturn with this cluster of planets will be posited in the 4th house. To have a malefic in the Kendra or in the Sukha Bhava, which is the 4th house, is not a great idea. So there will be a bit of unhappiness on the home front, that you feel, oh, my interior decor is not good, the upholstery is not good, the plumbing is an issue, the overall interiors of the house are an issue. And this is also a time where people will travel so much that they'll say, oh, we are living out of suitcases. That too could give that sense of not being sthira at a particular place. Saturn as the third lord aspecting the 6th. If you're planning to get into a new sport and to learn something, this is a good time. It will give you the courage and the wherewithal to participate or to get into a new sport or a new activity. It could even be dancing. It could be some sort of a physical activity, and it will give you, you'll put in the effort to do it, which is a good thing. As the second lord in the 4th, with this entire cluster of planets, if you're planning to invest, liquidate a capital stock or a capital asset and invest it in various other options. So one asset gets liquidated and it's further on invested. Of course, you could be settling a loan and then you say, okay, with the remaining money, I'm going to invest it wisely. Then there could be many places or many points where it could be invested. Just be careful with the portfolio is all that I would recommend for Dhanu Lagna people. Remember, Saturn is a slow moving planet in the watery sign of Pisces. When with its 10th drishti or 10th aspect, it aspects the Lagna or the fiery sign of Dhanu, the Rajasic qualities or this entire action oriented quality of Sagittarius or Dhanu will be diluted a little as the slow moving planet from a watery Rashi will be aspecting it. So there could be inertia, there could be lethargy. So my recommendation is a regimented lifestyle would be good. Try and stick to it and don't allow yourself to be a couch potato in half measures or otherwise. Just be careful of that is what I would recommend. Saturn in the 4th, aspecting the 10th, also brings about changes on the work front which might not be as per what you plan or which might not be as per your liking. But if the fierce winds are blowing, then you sort of accept the change that is coming your way and mold yourself in such a way that you take the change in your stride. Because there's so many, as I said, we don't live in controlled environments. Suddenly something will erupt and bring about changes. Well, take it in your stride, accept the change, take it in your stride, whether it's working from home or a certain combination which says this is the amount of time you go into this office, that is the amount of time in that office. So there's movement, there is change, but you take it in your stride because it's important. These are uncertain times ahead, not just for Dhanu Rashi people, generally. This period of Atichari Brihaspati, the fast forward movement of Jupiter from 2025 to 2033, these are uncertain times. So I'm not saying that you should be taking too much of a risk on the job front or on the career. Status quo is good. Low risk, low return is better than high risk, high return for everybody. That stays true for everybody. That can be looked at for the marriage front because Jupiter very soon from the 15th of May, in fact from the 14th of May, will enter into the sign of Gemini. So that will activate the Lagna in the 7th axis for Sagittarius ascendant or moon sign people. So yes, you could find a partner at this point in time. And now we will go to Capricorn. How is this transit going to be for Capricorn? For Capricorn Lagna, as the Lagna Lord in the 3rd, this brings about, see, the 3rd bhav, the 3rd house is looked at for parakram, endeavor, effort. And with this cluster of planets, with Saturn in the 3rd, is very good in terms of if there have been some things, some projects that have been lying on the back burner, now they will come on the forefront because you will put in the effort to now take those projects to completion or fruition. So this is good from that perspective. Your siblings could be getting into a new hobby which could bring them a second source of income as well. You could be getting into a new hobby or picking up a new hobby that you've been thinking about for a long time but you've not delved into. Now could be that time with the 3rd house so beautifully activated. So if there's something that was on your mind for a long time, well, you can indulge yourself and get it activated. Now, Saturn as the Lagna Lord aspecting the 9th house and also the 12th, this could give you pilgrimage or tirtha. So if you plan to do some pilgrimage or which you've been thinking of for a while, well, now could be the time. With Saturn in Pisces, you could be doing some pilgrimage. As the 2nd Lord aspecting the 5th, the investments that you make in this period will bring you decent returns. So that too can be looked at. If your younger siblings are facing a health problem, don't be negligent, or rather you should guide them that they should not be negligent of their health. They should take it seriously, and whatever needs to be done to ward off, even if it's a minor issue or a disease, they should do the requisite or put in the requisite effort to do so. There is a combination that whenever planets of the 3rd or the 5th house their lordships of planets posited in those houses, whenever their dashas come, then there are changes on the job front. Well, that can be said for Makar Lagna people as well. But these are not some drastic changes coming your way. These are not drastic at all. They could be something that you've been thinking of, that a job comes your way and you change it. There are no gaps or any breaks, nothing of that sort, but just a change. So that is fine. This is a period of gains because, the second lord aspecting the fifth and the second lord aspecting the ninth. Your father could also get good returns on his investments. So this is a period of gains for Makar Rashi people. One can see that. And now we will move to Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius. So for Aquarius ascendants or Aquarius moon sign people, this is not the time to diet too much because the second house is majorly afflicted. Be careful of your oral health. Be careful that you don't get into any oral addictions. That's very, very important. You could suddenly reduce the intake of, if there is a certain amount of food that you've been eating previously, then there could be sudden drastic lowering of levels with respect to the intake of food. So please be very careful that you take a decent quantity of food. You don't just drastically cut it down and go on a severe diet which affects your health. Yes, just be careful of that as well. And as I said, oral addictions, your mouth hygiene and health, that needs to be looked at. Don't remain dehydrated. Drink decent amount of water. Never overhydrate because that too is a problem. But don't remain dehydrated. Saturn in the second house causes that as well. Don't be vicious in your speech. That too needs a correction. That too needs to be looked at. If you have to say something to people, well, witty is one thing, but sarcastic is another. Avoid sarcasm and avoid vicious speech. Don't backbite because that too creates karma and it too will have a boomerang effect. Nothing, action and reaction are guaranteed. It is the law of nature. As the 12th lord in the second, make sure that you don't hurriedly try and liquidate any asset or sell off any gold. Be careful. This is not a good time to liquidate or disintegrate a capital asset. Not a good time. Be careful of that. If you're buying life insurance policies or medical policies, be careful that you evaluate whatever is there in the market. Saturn as the 12th lord aspecting the 11th. Not a good time for investing in stocks. That needs to be looked at as well. As the Lagna lord aspecting the 4th house from the second, there might be many changes in terms of renovation, etc. that you plan to do in your house. Just don't overspend is my suggestion on that. Don't overinvest in learning a new hobby in the second half of this year or the second half of the next year. Don't overinvest. When I say overinvest, I'm saying don't just blindly spend money. Or sometimes, you learn something and you've just learned a little bit of it. Then you spend blindly to buy props or equipment for that hobby while you have not even learned it, fully. But you want to now tell yourself that you want to spend and exceedingly so invest in the best equipment. Well, I don't deny that you should invest in good equipment, but sometimes it's just a passing phase and you waste your money thinking that this is going to be a lifelong hobby. So be careful. Just use your better judgment when you're doing so, is my recommendation for Kumbh Rashi. Otherwise, as the Lagna lord in the second house, this is fine. But with that entire eclipse happening in the second house, just be careful of your eating habits and don't have too much of food from outside locations and don't therefore cause any bacterial infection to yourself with just eating from anywhere. So just be careful on that front as well. And now we will move to the last sign, Pisces. Saturn is now coming into the Lagna, aspecting the 3rd, the 10th and the 7th. Don't just look at the aspect. Saturn as the 11th lord aspecting the 10th is surely good for your business or your career. It's going to give you rise in your career, because Jupiter soon will be transiting into your 4th house, and as the 10th lord will aspect the 10th house, so you're going to do good things in your career. For Pisces ascendant, this also remember that this eclipse that has just happened, the solar eclipse that happened in Pisces, in Uttar Bhadrapad Nakshatra, it's a very alchemical nakshatra which brings about transformation. The lord of this nakshatra is Ahirbudhanya, Sheshanaga himself, and it is looked at for spiritually transformative experiences as well. So Pisces ascendant people, also Aries ascendant people would experience this, and I could, yes. So that's something that one can see from this eclipse also that happened on the 29th from the Uttar Bhadrapad Nakshatra, the nakshatra of Saturn. Very soon I will try and do a podcast on Saturn's transit in, the eclipse happened in Uttar Bhadrapad, but Saturn is yet to transit that nakshatra, so I will talk about it. It's going to take some time before Saturn makes the transit. So professionally, this is a good time for Pisces ascendant people. Now, as the 12th lord aspecting the 3rd, there will be many short travels for Pisces ascendant people. So short travels would mean Delhi to Gurgaon, Delhi to Noida, Bombay to Pune. These are short travels, so which are shown by the 3rd house. So the 12th, as the 12th lord in the Lagna aspecting the 3rd, one can expect that. Saturn is also the 11th lord aspecting the 3rd. You could have some gain from your younger siblings. Sometimes younger siblings tell you that we could get into a partnership, or even older siblings tell you that we could get into a partnership. So if your siblings are telling you that you could do some business with them, it might be a good idea. You could go ahead. But as I said, it is always important to get your chart analyzed individually, because there are many permutation combinations. Just from a zodiac sign prediction, one should not make very major decision in one's life. Note that point. As the 12th lord aspecting the 10th, Saturn could also bring about a lot of travel in your work. It's not about transfer, but it could make you travel from one location to another, and it will be beneficial. It might be tiring and taxing, but it would be beneficial. That's clear. As the 11th lord aspecting the 7th, try and remain faithful to one partner. That's important. As the 12th lord aspecting the 7th, your spouse too could be traveling a lot on the work front. So one should balance one's life. The family needs to balance their lives with, if the spouse is also traveling, one needs to balance life on the family front as well. For Pisces ascendant people, Jupiter, when it retrogrades again, could affect the father's health. So the second half of 2025 and the second half of 2026, be careful of your father's health. And be careful of your expenses also in the second half of this year and the second half of next year. Don't overindulge yourself, and don't just spend without thinking too much. That's not a good idea. Anyone should not do that, but showing up for whichever ascendant it's showing up for, I'm telling exactly what I can see. Now for remedies. Some remedies I've given in the middle, which one was the remedy for Lord Hanuman and Anjaneya, because I said the maleficence of Saturn doesn't trouble people when they chant the Hanuman Chalisa. You could also be doing the Sundar Kand or the Hanuman Bahuk. Hanuman Bahuk is done specifically when there is pain felt in a particular part of the body. Tulsi Das ji wrote the Hanuman Bahuk when he was writing the Tulsi Das Ramayana and his arms used to hurt a lot. He wrote the Hanuman Bahuk. So if there's pain in any part of the body, so if there's a physical pain in the body, one recites the Hanuman Bahuk. Remember this. So worship of Lord Hanuman protects a person from the negative effects of Saturn. A very powerful remedy is reciting the Dashrath Krita Shani Stotram from the Brahmanda Puran. Raja Dashrath, King Dashrath, Lord Ram's father, had penned this stotram so that when Saturn transited Rohini Nakshatra, it wouldn't cause drought or trouble to his praja, his kingdom of Awadh, Ayodhya. So he propitiated Saturn by reciting this stotram written by him. It comes in the Brahmanda Puran. That can be done by you too. If you feel that this is too much of Sanskrit, then the first shloka of this stotram can be recited too. I will share that again in the reels or something. Mahishasur Mardini Stotram. Worshipping goddess Durga also would create a protection of sorts. So that too can be done. So I am recommending Mahishasur Mardini Stotram or worship of goddess Durga by simply chanting the Durga Chalisa. There is another beautiful chant that I recommend, which is the Durga Ashtotar Shatanam, the 108 names of Mother Durga in Sanskrit. And of course, as I've said, the Shani Stotram, Hanuman Chalisa. For anybody who feels that their relationship is not as blissfully sweet as it was, and this transit of Saturn is causing that, then Uma Maheshwar Stotram is a beautiful chant. Offering jal, water mixed with black sesame seeds to Mahadeva, to Shivalinga, is also a remedy. It can be done every Saturday, or simply reciting the Panchakshar mantra Om Namah Shivaya propitiates everything and all planets. Or simply taking the name of your Ishtadeva, whoever it be. It is said, एक को साधने से सब सध जाते हैं. When you worship that one deity, your Ishtadevta, who's residing in your heart, then you don't need to now propitiate everybody, because in that one divine deity, you have propitiated everybody. You have propitiated all divinity. So that form that appeals to you, if you just worship that form, it could be Radharani, it could be Sri Krishna, then don't get into too much of remedial measures. Just worship that one form that appears to you. Worship Mahakali if she appears to you as the form that you so desire, then so be it. Then you don't need to worship n number of deities. Remember this. And with that, Om Namah Shivaya.